Frogs get their licks back for 2023 against Colorado with a 35-21 win. We're going to break it all down, plus some things from around TCU athletics on this episode of Frogs Insider. Hey, Frog fans, welcome into another episode of Frogs Insider. Jamie Plunkett here with Melissa Treebwasser, as always, recording this on a Sunday evening. Melissa, we have fewer fumbles than the Bills and the Patriots do currently, which is kind of nice. We value ball protection.
We protect balls.
It's true. You know who else does? That's the TCU Horned Frogs, because they won the turnover battle 4-0 against Colorado, and that was really nice of them to do that. Hey, we are Frogs Insider. We are part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Podcast Network, which is now the Dave Campbell's Podcast Network. No, Dave Campbell's College Podcast Network, I think.
Did they
I don't
change?
have it written down.
Yeah.
It's changed a couple times, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, you know,
Craven
whatever.
Craven would correct us, but he doesn't listen to the show.
Yeah. Thank
Carter
goodness for
might.
that.
Carter might. Anyway, shout out Carter if you're listening. Dave Campbell's College Football Podcast Network. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts just by searching Dave Campbell's. That will include our show, and it will include a show for every D1 program in the state of Texas, all in one feed just for you. So you can listen to our show, then you can listen to the Gauchos talk about their win over Houston. You can listen to Between Two Bears, listen to their win, listen to them talk about their win over Kansas State, and so on and so on and so on, because it was a pretty good Saturday for the state of Texas when it comes to football, unless you're a Texas fan.
Yeah.
And then it was incredibly bad. But this is a TCU podcast, not a Texas podcast. Go to the Frogs Insider YouTube channel, by the way, and hit subscribe. Hit that notification button so that you get a notification anytime we post new content, which is pretty much every day this time of year. Melissa just put up a few interviews today with TCU Soccer after coming off of their win. We're going to break down their win, break down Senior Day later on in the show. I was at an open scrimmage for men's basketball. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about baseball's getting fall camp underway. But first, Melissa, TCU 35, Colorado 21. We talked a lot about it on the postgame show, but give me your biggest takeaway from this football game for TCU.
This team still has a lot of flaws. I love that TCU got a win. There was a lot of positives to take from it. I thought it was a great bounce back night for Josh Hoover. It's amazing what a difference having Eric McAllister and Kavorian Barnes out there makes for this offense as a whole. But if you want to start thinking big picture, and with all the chaos that's around this conference, you feel like pretty much every team thinks they can get to Arlington or sees a path to Arlington. But if you can't run the ball and stop the run, you're not going to end up being one of those teams. And I think it's still a struggle for TCU to do either of those things consistently. The defense bucked up and made stops when they need to and forced 3 turnovers and got a special teams turnover. But there were too many missed tackles. There were too many guys running wide open and free. And if not for being opportunistic, this could have been a really different ball game. So I think that, you've looked and seen a lot of the same issues now for 3 consecutive seasons. The difference that we've seen in the last 10 or 11 games is TCU is finding ways to win without being able to really, they're patching the issues successfully. And I guess that's something worth celebrating. They're finding ways to address their flaws. But I think systemically, they're going to have to find ways to turn those flaws into strengths if they want to truly be a contender, not just this season, but beyond.
I agree with that. And it goes back to personnel, I think, for the most part, especially in the trenches. And Sonny, it's just so interesting to me, and I think we can spend a little bit of time on this if we really want to. There's a very clear and distinct philosophy for TCU football, and it comes from Sonny Dykes, and it is the desire to be a developmental program, which means you are taking mostly high school guys and you are turning them into college football players and valuable starters and key depth and so on and so forth. And then you're supplementing in the transfer portal. And all of that makes sense strategically, as long, I think, as you are acquiring top-end high school talent. When you're not acquiring top-end high school talent, then the challenge becomes, how good of a developer are you, right? Because you're having to go above and beyond for some of these kids to get them to the point of being a capable, functional Power 4 starter. And we've seen that in some instances with TCU, right? Especially when you consider skill positions. I think we've seen that. When you consider members of the secondary, I think we've seen that a little bit. When you consider some of the guys on the defensive line, I think we've seen that. But realistically, like, it has just not happened yet at the offensive line spot.
Mm-hmm.
That 22 team was veteran talent. Yes, they brought Alana Lee over from SMU that year, but all those guys were high school kids that had been taken by TCU out of high school
Mm-hmm.
and turned into not only capable P4 starters, but a couple of them capable NFL
Yeah.
starters, right? One of them was on the sideline
Yeah.
for
Steve.
this game, Steve Avila, who we both adore, obviously, because he's a great human being. Unfortunately, he's banged up right now, so he's not playing for the Rams. But that's the kind of talent that TCU is capable of bringing in, even in this era of college football where you got to spend a little bit of money to get some high schoolers on campus that are really valuable. I just the challenge with the system as we see it at TCU is this lack of desire to pay high school players because they haven't done anything at the college level, and I understand that logic to an extent, but at some point you got to take a chance, right? And as much as we rag on, especially as TCU fans, stars and rankings and all of the things that go into high school recruiting, the reality is that they're pretty damn accurate,
Yeah.
right? The misses
Especially
are
on the
far,
offensive line.
especially in the trenches, the misses are far fewer than the hits when it comes to rankings and that sort of thing. So I would just, at some point, you've got to go and you've got to get guys that can play at a higher level. And that's a long-term situation. Obviously, TCU's not going to be able to address personnel much right now, but long-term, like you said, if they want to improve in this area, they've got to do something a little bit differently.
Well, and it's just hard seeing the same problem year after year after year. And I think
Yeah.
that's the frustrating thing. And they did go and they tried to get a couple of guys in the portal. They've seemingly recruited at a pretty high level. I mean, you don't get a lot of opportunities to get 4-star offensive linemen.
Hmm.
They're very expensive, as you alluded to. But when you can't run the football for now 3 seasons in a row, like, you got to kind of go back to brass tacks and say what is not working and what kind of significant change do we need to make. We've seen some good things out of Kavorian Barnes, but primarily in pass protection. He obviously we've only really seen him now in the equivalent of 2 games, so the jury's still out. Certainly, he didn't get a ton of touches against Colorado, but that is the worst rushing defense in the conference. And as I mentioned on the postgame show, a lot of that has to do with the quarterbacks they've played and the amount of rush yards those quarterbacks have done. But, like, that's kind of my thing is a quarterback running the football is a variant, it's a variable. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Josh needs to be the guy running the football, but we saw them put Savion Williams in the Wildcat and get something to work. Like, you have to get creative. You have to realize you cannot necessarily make sweeping changes in who your personnel is. But maybe there's different ways you can do things. That looked like they kind of flirted with that early on. They got away from it. And then they went back to it late with some of that creativity and kind of bringing some extra guys into the backfield. And they managed to put up 35 unanswered, or 35-7, scoring output over the final really 3 quarters.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in the kind of the trickeration that they're using this year, or the formation gimmicks that they're using this year, and Savion last year, right?
Okay.
Savion as a runner was so much more sustainable, I think, just because of his physicality and his size. They don't have a guy that they can just call on to do that this year. And Major Everhart running sweeps is really good, and putting him out into the flat is good. I'm glad he's healthy because he's a weapon that they can use. But Eric McAllister's dealing with a hamstring. You're not going to put him back there. Kavorian Barnes is dealing with a hamstring. You're going to limit his touches until you know that he's really fully 100% ready to go. And outside of that, they just don't have a ton of physicality on this offense. I mean, look at all the other running backs. Look at their sizes. They're all pretty small. They're faster kind of guys, except for John Denman, who kind of, I think, is maybe in the doghouse a little bit after taking that kick out against Arizona State. He only had two. He wasn't on kickoffs against Colorado, and he only had two touches in the game or two snaps in the game. And so at some point, like, you just have to be able to line up and play
Yeah.
football. Like, you just have to. And it has to be because you know that you have the people up front to go and get it done. And TCU just doesn't seem to have that right now. And it's really frustrating.
And I think it's especially frustrating because it was just a month ago that we were sitting on this same show recording and talking about how excited we were because of
Yeah.
how physical they played against UNC. And we fully acknowledged that UNC was not good then. But what I remember saying, and I had to eat my words, remember saying that even though UNC was not good competition, that physicality should translate. That ability to move people off the line should translate no matter who you're playing. And it just simply has not. And I mean, think Ryan, like we talked about last night, Ryan Hughes left the field on crutches.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're like, well, his play wasn't exactly exemplary at times, he's very young.
Sure.
He was still the best guy for the job. So now you're going to bring in a backup and ask a lot of that guy, and it especially, like, I don't know if we're ready to transition off of this, but that's especially concerning. And you talked about this last night when you look at this team and think, oh, they don't have a kicker. And they're going to have to be more aggressive on fourth down and plus territory, especially on short yardage. And, you know, we saw them convert a lot of fourth downs against SMU. We saw them, you know, struggle in third and fourth down against Arizona State. And it was a mixed bag against Colorado. But you have to be able to go and get 2 and 3 yards, especially when you're in kind of that in-between, well, not even the in-between range. I don't want to pick on Nate McCashlin whatsoever, because I think he's come in and done the best that he's capable of doing in light of the situation he's been put in. But at the end of the day, he's had 2 37-yard kicks and you know, hasn't been able to convert, and that's just part of it. You have a backup kicker, and there's not many college programs that are spending a second roster spot on a actual kicking competition. So other than the kickoff out of bounds, you know, I think he's mostly done what we expect him to be able to do. But I just don't think that you're going to see TCU attempt a lot of field goals going forward until Leverman is back. And so now you're looking at playing 4 downs from about the 38 to 40 yard in for the most part. And you need to be able to run the ball to convert some of those, or at least to keep them so that that's 4th and short instead of, you know, we've seen a lot of 4th and 8s and 4th and 7s and 4th and 11s that TCU's gone for.
It's true. And part of the challenge up front isn't necessarily when you get to fourth down, it's why and how you're getting to fourth down. So we talked about it a little bit on the post-game show, but TCU was 9 of 18 in late down situations against Colorado. That translated to, I believe, 7 of 15 on third down and 2 of 3 on fourth down. A lot of those were like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 13. And it's just not sustainable when you don't have much early down success to continue hitting in late down situations at a 50% clip, right? 50% is actually a pretty good conversion rate when it comes to 3rd and 4th down situations, but they're not doing enough on 1st and 2nd down to put themselves in good positions in 3rd and 4th down, and they're also not avoiding 3rd and 4th down enough because they're so bad on 1st and 2nd down. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times, especially when you can't run the football, what we've seen from TCU this year is, oh, they ran it for a 1-yard loss, now it's 2nd and 11. Okay, now you have the horrible choice of, do we throw it and risk 3rd and 11, or do we just try to run it again and then have like a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, right? So 1st down, running the football has been so terrible for TCU this year that it's putting them behind the 8 ball when it comes to 3rd and 4th downs. And the success rate is not sustainable if you're asking Josh Hoover to consistently convert on 3rd and 10 or longer. It's just not. And I asked him about it a couple weeks ago. He seemed a little frustrated about it, about their early down success rate, which is not very good right now. I think it's like 75th in the country or something like that. Really tough to consistently have offensive success when you are in 3rd down situations so frequently. The other thing about this is the tackles for TCU they struggled so much against Colorado, and that was not a good defensive front. Now you're about to go on the road to Kansas State. Then you host, I can't remember who was after that, Baylor, right? And those were two very good defensive fronts. I just don't, these were supposed to be games where you're going to be favored in going forward, these next 2 or 3. But if the offensive line plays like it did against Colorado, I don't know that TCU comes away with wins in those.
Yeah. Yeah, Kansas State, isn't good, but can they give TCU fits at home next week? 100%. 100%. And Avery Johnson is not a good thrower of the football, but he could run for 170 yards and could put up enough points to make life difficult on TCU, where they do feel like they have to drop back and pass 50 times. And if Josh has to drop back 50 times, he's going to get sacked 6. Yeah. And we've seen it, right? And so, and I mean, I think that's kind of our frustration is I don't want to sit here and come on, and Jeremy kind of did a good job of phrasing this last night. Like, I don't want to come on and be like, oh my God, TCU won, they're so terrible. Like, that's not the case. It's just, I think we both see the potential of what this team can do, especially at a year where it's so even across the board. With the quarterback play hasn't been maybe quite what we expected across the Big 12. I think we thought we'd see a little bit more elite quarterback play, and everyone's been kind of the same. Maybe that ends up, maybe they're all really good. I don't know yet, but I think that it's so ripe. Bauer has a lot to say about this. It's so ripe for the taking.
Get him, Bauer.
Come on, Bauer. It's so ripe. He's barking at Shaq, who's sitting in a lazy boy recliner. This is an interesting commercial, and I have questions. But anyways, I think that you see how the path for TCU could be so open if they could just figure this one thing out. Unfortunately, this one thing they need to figure out is pretty significant.
It is. You mentioned special teams. I don't have an update on Lemmerman coming back. I don't know that that's in the near future.
Kickers with leg injuries don't come back quickly.
It's tough, right? It's tough, especially when it's your kicking leg, and it's just this is kind of where TCU is. So all of this it's all connected, right? It's this the Always Sunny in Philly meme. All the strings on the board, everything's connected, right? Poor offensive line play, bad running game leads to 4th down situations where you have to consider going for it instead of kicking it, and then you feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's the gist of TCU football right now. And I will also recognize that we're saying this after a 14-point win over Colorado when TCU covered. When you had Eric McAllister back, you had Kavorian Barnes back, and the offense does look better and different when those 2 guys are available, even if they aren't 100%. But I have a question for you to put you on the spot a little bit here. You were in that corner of the end zone for Eric's second touchdown. You got some really great photos of it, one of which I believe I used for an article today on hornfrogblitz.com. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I also noticed, though, on the replay of that second touchdown that Eric maybe stayed down for a second. Was he just fixing his socks?
I think it was a cramp. It was a cramp. So it was really awkward because I saw the route, and I'm so thankful for this podcast, JB, and for the group chat, because I am such a smarter viewer of football, having covered this team, having chatted with you, having chatted with the rest of the chat. I've learned so much from everybody all of the time, and so I saw that route developing. And I also want to point out, I called this. We were the photographers in the corner. We were trying to manifest a touchdown in the corner of the end zone because every play that had been made away from us the whole game. It was same group of us, and so I was like, "This is Eric is going to score in this corner before the end of this game. I promise. It's going to happen." And sure enough, I see the route developing, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, it's happening." And so I got up, I was kneeling instead of sitting because I knew I was going to have to get out of the way quickly. So and again, that's how I knew this was coming. So I was kneeling, I get up and I move to the side. I watch the ball come in, I get the shot. I was so happy it was in focus because it's that close and I have such a long lens. I think it was one of only 2 of the 5 of us that actually got the shot because of the focus. And then he goes down and I keep shooting and I realize he's grabbing his leg and I was like, oh no. Wouldn't this just be perfect? TCU goes for it, they get the cover, and they lose McAllister again. But the way he was rubbing his shin, I think he had a Charlie horse. That's what it gave me. And he did not seem to limp off or anything. And all the other guys, nobody was They didn't call for trainers. Like there was no, he got up and he walked away. And like, so I kind of stopped taking pictures. I was like, oh my God, what if he's hurt? But I looked at him, I was like, you good? And he was just like, yeah, yeah. And he just kind of rubbing his shin. So I think he just had a cramp is what it seemed to be. I could be wrong. I was wrong about Kavorian Barnes. So, and how serious his injury was, but it didn't seem to be anything that's going to be long-term. I guess we'll maybe learn more in Sonny's presser this week, but hopefully it was nothing serious.
In Sonny's presser on the Wednesday injury report ahead of Kansas State, the 72-hour injury report. Oddly enough, Jeremy Payne wasn't on that at any point, and we did not see him on Saturday. So
we all forgot to ask Sonny about it.
We all just sat there and thought about other things, looked at butterflies in that press conference. Apparently,
we were all very bad at our job. It was very tight. We were very late.
It was late, and then we did a 50-minute post-game show for like 700 people, which was pretty dope
which was
as
really
well.
Awesome. Very cool.
Thanks to everybody who stuck around for that. You can find the replay of that over on the Frogs Insider YouTube channel. Shameless plug. If you guys want those post-game shows to be in the podcast feed as well, just leave a comment on this show and let us know. And we'll consider doing that. A couple other things about this football game before we move on to more things from around TCU's athletics department. I know that going into the post-game show, you really wanted to talk about energy and vibes, and I don't think we did a ton of that talk because the show was running pretty long. So let's open up that part of the conversation now, because I think when we talked about Josh Hoover's energy over the offensive PI, you've talked about Caleb's energy, Elar Amsor's energy a couple times now on a couple different shows. Lafayette spiking the football, getting the touch or getting the 15-yard penalty, but still that energy. Just you were really kind of locked in and focused on the team's energy on Saturday night.
Yeah, I asked Bud and Marcus after the game about it, and I love what Bud, gave a typical Bud answer of, we're always fired up to play football, and we knew we needed to come out and bring it. He had great verbiage on it, but I love what Marcus said. Marcus simply said we had to get the bad taste out of our mouth, and so it felt like to be that there was a concerted effort to play with a little more joy and a little more emotion than we've seen this team maybe do. And it's a hard balance as a coach because you don't want your team to be overly emotional to where they do things like get a 15-yard penalty for spiking a football, but you also don't want them to play flat. And TCU historically has had such an issue. We saw it on Saturday night with coming out not being the most excited team to play. And so it felt like when they had that first interception, the switch flipped. They were like, oh, wait a minute, we're supposed to be bringing a little bit more juice. And the vibes on the sidelines, the energy around the stadium completely changed in that moment. And so I don't think any player would tell us straight up about this because I think it's probably a locker room thing, but it feels like a conversation has been had by the leaders, by guys like Bud and Josh and probably Chase Curtis, that we have to play like we like this a little bit more. And there's a lot of it's a game, and we talk, but it has gotten so much more business-like with the advent of the portal and with NIL, with the house settlement and all of that. Like, we always knew there was money around the sport, but it definitely feels like these guys look at it more as a job. And, Bud even made the comment about, we asked about the final play and Namdi getting that interception at half. He said, we both got kids at home. And it is that, like, these guys are playing for a paycheck now. And I think it has absolutely changed some of the sheer joy of playing football around programs across the country, not just TCU by any stretch. And so I wonder if there was a conversation had of just saying, hey, this is fun. And yeah, there's money, and yeah, there's stakes, and yeah, there's portaling, and yeah, there's this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, we're still playing football, and we're playing for a university. And my gosh, like, students, you guys have been awesome. If there are any current students listening to this, what you guys did for SMU and what you did Saturday night against Colorado, as somebody who remembers being one of maybe 400 students in the stands way back in the day, like, it almost makes me a little bit emotional. Like, having the biggest class in TCU history, like, it's intentionally they're growing the school, but you still have to show up. And after a loss, it would have been really easy for the energy not to be there. But the kids brought it. They stayed the whole game. Like, that's something we've seen twice this year that we've never seen it before. They stay the whole game. They're loud the whole time. And it was really awesome to see. Don't throw stuff on the field. Don't do that. That's bad. We don't like it. But otherwise, I think that the crowd fed the players. The players fed into the crowd with the turnovers and the big plays. And I don't think that was accidental. I think it was an intentional choice by this team to play with a little bit more emotion.
Yeah, I was okay with him throwing stuff. It was, I think, warranted in that moment. I don't think TC's going to get a fine for that or anything. I had a couple conversations with folks today, so that, it is what it is. But look, I think that when it comes to being the more excited team to play, which is what Sonny talks about all the time, it's hard, I think, over the course of a season to be at that same level every single week. And the fact that they did manage to do that for this football game, I think, is good. And I think it carried them through some of that adversity as well.
For sure.
Just the way that they were able to rebound and recompose themselves in certain moments, because that offensive pass interference call was one of the most egregious calls I've ever seen. Truly, it was. It was brutal. To have two defenders run into each other. And by the way, I went back and watched that play again. McAllister didn't break his route. That was his route, a little button hook.
Okay.
Right there in front of that guy. And so he played it off incredibly well, because he stopped, pivoted, and turned in front of that guy and put his hands up towards Josh like he was looking for the ball. So, again, he ran his route. You see Manjack going down the seam, and he's not touching anyone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I think the odd thing for me too was not only that those were not pass interference calls, but that the flag came so late in the play.
For sure.
Like DJ was already 10, 15 yards downfield when you see the flag come through from the field judge, even not the line judge, but the guy standing by the pylon in the end zone is the one who threw the flag. It's just odd. Yeah. It was just all very, very odd to me. But I was glad to see that they brought their energy. Now they've got a game against Kansas State where, hey, Kansas State's 2-4. They're kind of reeling a little bit. Yeah. Now's your chance to go and take advantage, because they haven't played well in Manhattan historically.
Yeah, and this becomes a separator game, and like obviously Kansas State being 2-4 is a way worse position than TCU being 4-1. But when you look at their upcoming schedules, like you have a chance to do something that I don't know when the last time it's been done, and that's put the nail in the coffin of Kansas State season in October.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just doesn't happen in Manhattan. But like you said, TCU historically has struggled there. They've been not great against the run, and this is still a team that can buck up and run the football. They had a very much a mid-off with Baylor on Saturday, and just kind of choked away a win. It feels like they're so on their heels, and it's that balancing doll thing where if you go and you give them one swift poke in the stomach, they may just give up. And so if TCU can come and start fast, and get a lead, I don't think this is a situation like Arizona State. I think if they get a lead on the road this week, they have a chance to truly keep it and potentially and Kansas State season. If they lose this game, now you're looking at a stretch where you lose at Kansas State. You have Baylor coming in, and that to me is such a coin flip game. Like the line on that is going to be nothing. And then you go to Morgantown, and West Virginia is awful. But if you're reeling and you have to go on the road and make that tough road trip, and then it's a look-ahead game because Iowa State comes to town next, and they're going to probably be ranked. So this is such a critical start. Like, it's not a must-win game because you're still 4-1 right now, but it's a game that you feel like this can be a season-defining moment for both of these programs, and you don't want to be the program on the wrong end of it.
No, you don't. You really don't. So you talk about energy. You got to bring it to Manhattan and just let it kind of snowball from there. The good news is that they are heading into Manhattan 4-1 instead of 3-2, which felt like an extreme possibility for the most of Saturday night against Colorado. Let's move on though to a couple other things, because you were out at soccer today. They got a win on Senior Day. Let's just kind of break all that down.
Yeah, it was a great afternoon, an awesome crowd. Never in doubt at Garvey Rosenthal. People are going to show up, which is really fun to see. And it was, TCU, Eric Bell talked post-game about TCU needed to get back to playing their game. And this is a team that lives off possession and lives off of kind of lulling you to sleep and then looking for its opportunities to attack. And Iowa State really controlled the ball early in this one, and then made a couple of mistakes. TCU took advantage, and the ball was moving so quickly from side to side across the field. Everybody was getting touches. Everybody was active. AJ Hennessy, one of four-year seniors on this team, got things started with just a beautiful goal where it was funny because I'm training my camera on her. I did not see the ball go into the net, and her reaction at first I was like, oh, she must have missed, and then all of a sudden you see her celebrate and like, oh, it found the back of the net, and on replay it was a beautiful shot. And then 47 seconds later, I think it was, Cam Patton made it 2-0. I mean, just literally less than a minute. And then, Seven Castaigne kind of put the candle on the birthday cake there kind of late in the second half or late in the first half to make it 3-0. Iowa State got a goal late off a corner kick. But at the end of the day, TCU played the style of soccer that they want to play, and they did it effectively. They kept possession. They had the ball. I mean, Iowa State got, I think, 2 shots, maybe 3 the entire game. And this is building off of, a game Thursday night where they lost, but they allowed 3 goals to Colorado on 3 shots. I mean, they just had 3 little brain fart moments, and Colorado took advantage, but they felt like they played really, really well. So that team is awesome. They're unbelievable. I asked Eric Bell after the game about Seven Castaigne and her place and kind of TCU soccer, legend status. And he said that she's really working towards belonging on the Mount Rushmore of players. I mean, you look at Yasmin Ryan and Messiah Bright. She's not, she has a chance to catch Messiah, I think, for number 2 all time. Yasmin, she's probably not going to catch. I think that's the order they go in. But Seven is so special. She's such a special athlete. She's such an incredible human being. If you haven't had a chance to listen to her interview, go to our YouTube channel and check it out. I clipped a portion of it for Shorts as well, where she talked about kind of where she gets her work ethic. This kid has never made anything lower than an A in her 4 years at TCU while playing Division I sports. And when I say lower than an A, she has not even made an A-. Bell calls her her nickname is Straight A7. Because that's what she does. She just gets A's. So this is one of those kids that you look at and you go, I think there's an argument that she belongs in the upper echelon of all time TCU athletes for what she's done on the pitch, the way she's elevated that program. And to me, it's even more impressive because when you look at Messiah and Yasmin, they were option 1 by a mile on their teams, and they were very successful, and they were very effective while also having so much defensive attention played to them. Seven gets a ton of defensive attention, but she's also moving the ball. Like, it's not always on her to be the one that has to score. And I think it's even more impressive how many goals she scores because they're not forcing it to her. She just consistently makes play after play. She had 4 girls around her all day today and just got it done. So really exciting team. They've got a tough stretch ahead. They will go to Lubbock on Friday night. Tech is currently ranked number 18. TCU is number 7. So this is a huge matchup. And with the first 2 rounds of the Big 12 tournament being held in Fort Worth, a great opportunity for the Horned Frogs to hold serve at home and have a chance to play for a Big 12 championship and earn a really high seed in the national tournament. I mean, this is a team that I don't think it's too much to say has a realistic shot to make the College Cup, a place they've never been before. It's the top 4 teams in the country. If they were healthy, I'd be willing to almost guarantee it. But with Bella Diorio and Leb out for the season, I think those 2 injuries they can overcome them. They have the depth, but that does change, I think, the complexion, though I don't think it lowers the ceiling of what this team can accomplish.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, obviously you don't want injuries. They're not fun.
No,
they suck.
Bad. They're bad.
But at the same time, knowing that TCU has built up depth on their roster to overcome those, and still not just overcome them and, hey, we're going to be able to compete in games, but, hey, we're going to be able to compete in the tournament.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a legitimate testimony to what Eric Bell and his coaching staff have been able to construct.
A lot of girls, a lot of girls played today, and there's just not, and I would say it's not a great program or anything, but they've been able to play a lot of players this whole season without there being a big drop off. Cam Patton did get banged up a little bit, I think an ankle injury, nothing reportable, like as far as like I can't tell you specifically what happened, but she did have to come off the pitch twice and did not return. They didn't need her. It looked like she had a little ice wrap after the game. I don't think it's anything too serious. They've got a whole week to rest up almost, so that'll be good. But there are a lot of really good players on this team. And the thing that's just so impressive, and I talked to AJ about this, is, 4 of the 9 seniors have been there all 4 years. 3 of them are currently, playing significant roles. But you would never know how many new players are on this team by the way they play. They play with such great chemistry. This is just a really strong character team. They get it. They play with great energy. They play with a lot of fire, and they're just really, really good. And they all understand their roles. And when it's their turn to go on the pitch, they execute them.
Well, that's excellent to hear.
Yeah.
Volleyball also had a bounce back game this weekend. They swept Tech out in Lubbock 3-0. Took care of business, I think 25-16, 25-15, 25-19, something like
Yeah,
that,
something
if
like
I
that.
remember
Yeah.
off the top of my head. Just an absolute drubbing of an overmatched Texas Tech squad.
Yeah, they're good. I've got two players in contention for National Player of the Year honors, two on the watch list. This is a team that, I mean, all they've done the last 2 years is make history. They consistently make history for TCU volleyball, and that program is a completely different place than it was before Jason Williams got here. And now they're not only winning and doing great things, but they are uh, consistently recruiting at a really high level. Yeah, sorry, Evan Hendricks and Becca Kelly are
Mm-hmm.
on the AVCA Player of the Year award watch list. So, like, just to have that level of talent, to be as well coached as they are, again, I still think if they were at full strength, I'd be really excited about the type of postseason run. I think they'll need a little bit of seeding help, but they're gonna be in the mix for the Big 12 championship. They've shown they played just an impossibly hard schedule this year. Just a ridiculous, as many top 25 wins as just about anybody in the country, and played as many top 25 teams as just about anybody in the country. So they are, I think, on the road this week. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
I am also not sure. I'm going to vamp a little bit while I look this up. If I was the type of person that prepared, I would have all of this in front of me. But why would we want people to think that I would be doing my job well? Here we go. Okay. Yeah. So that is not the right schedule. Looks like 2024 to me. Yep, it is. Hold on, pull this up. Okay. Yes. So they have at UCF coming up. That should be hopefully an easy night for them. And then they get Cincinnati and Kansas State at home, back to back on the 15th and 17th of this month. So they'll have a tough one in Kansas here coming up towards the end of the month, and then BYU at home, which usually is a really strong program too. So the schedule, Big 12 volleyball is unbelievable. It's a really, really strong conference. So there's still some good opportunities to catch them at home against high level competition. And I highly recommend that you do so.
Perfect. All right, we can go one of two ways here. We can either go to men's hoops or we can go to baseball. Which one do you want to go to first?
Oh, let's go to Let's go to basketball. Let's go to hoops.
Okay. Um, well, they had their open scrimmage on Friday night. It was very fun. Pretty well attended, surprisingly, for something that they kind of threw together last minute and invited folks to, um, like just a couple days in advance. They did two things that I thought were really impressive in how they uh, ran this event. So first of all, it was just open and free, which is always very nice. And so there were a good number of TCU fans there. I would say, if you're thinking about section 101, kind of the main entrance of Schulmeyer down into that part of the lower bowl, like pretty much all of those seats were full
Okay.
from uh, back of the goal all the way around to back of the goal on the other side. Like it was very full
That's
on that
awesome.
side. Student section not as much, although they did get free chicken express for dinner if they showed up, which they all took advantage of. And then they did an autograph signing, which I think is always very good because people bring their kiddos out. They gave away free blackout T-shirts for the football
Okay.
game on
Smart. I
Saturday.
love it.
So like a lot of different kind of things happening prior to the scrimmage, and then they split the teams up and um, just played basketball. Two 12-minute halves with a 6-minute halftime. Mike Rice and Dwayne Broussard were the coaches for one team. Jamie McNeely and Corey Santee were coaches for the other team. And Dixon just kind of roamed around, did his thing. It reminded me a lot of the old school spring games under Gary,
Okay. That's fun.
where, it's very laid back, very casual. Gary's mostly in the stands just talking up to people. And then his coaches are kind of handling what is basically a glorified practice on the field. This was a more of an organized scrimmage than that, though. but it was still very fun to see. I think my three biggest takeaways from Friday night, though, were this team is going to be much better shooting the basketball. And I think in years past, when you and I have gotten kind of baited into that,
Burned, yeah.
Burned by that, it's because we've looked and said, okay, well, man, they added this one dude and he is an absolute beast. He's a demon as a shooter. That's going to be great. He's going to be able to space the floor. But it's a little bit different this year because they got 2 or 3 guys that I think are capable of shooting the floor that weren't on the team last year. The first one is Tanner Toolson, the Utah Valley transfer who started his college career at BYU. He was 5 of 9 from 3-point range during the scrimmage, worked really, really well on off-ball screens. And I don't know what this says about TCU's perimeter defense, but we'll get to TCU's defense in a moment. But he had some very good open looks, and he knocked them down for the most part. Another guy is Bug Edwards, Caden Edwards, the true freshman from Duncanville. He was the 6A state championship MVP for leading Duncanville to the state championship. He looked great. He was fast. He was efficient. He was, I think, 6 of 7 from 3-point range. He was the leading scorer. He had 23 points on the night. And he was paired up with Brock Harding. So he had that opportunity to play next to a really veteran point guard, and also saw the ball go in quite a bit, both transition threes, wide open corner threes. He hit 2 threes in the last 15 seconds of the game to give the white squad a chance at a last second half court shot, which he also took and almost banked in. Really good look from the true freshman, the only true freshman on the team. So with him, with Toolson, and then with the Oregon State transfer, whose name I'm not going to say, but they've been calling him LT. He knocked down a couple threes, looked pretty good. Xavier Edmonds, the JUCO transfer, knocked down 2 of 3 from 3-point range and looked pretty good. Like, they shot 41 threes during this 24-minute scrimmage and knocked down 20 of them, right? So it's 49% from 3-point range in the scrimmage. Obviously, it's a scrimmage. But it was just nice to see those shots go in more often than not, right?
So I know everybody's really excited about Bug Edwards, and I too am incredibly excited about this kid. I mean, he's just explosive. He jumps off the page. But we also know when his hand is not completely forced, Jamie Dixon prefers not to play freshmen. So if I were to ask you to make an over-under prediction on minutes per game, and I were to give you, let's say 16 and a half. And I'm talking the first. I'm talking the first month of the season. So
Yeah.
the non-con. You go over and under on Bugs minutes
I'm
in
going
the
over.
non-conference. Okay.
In non-con, I'm going over.
Okay.
Look, it's one scrimmage, Jamie. Don't say anything.
So we can't do. Remember how good the run game looked in 2024, Jamie.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, Bug Edwards is a very good basketball player, and I have had the chance to go take in a couple basketball practices at this point, and it's not like the scrimmage was just hey, he's going to go out and just shoot volume shots in front of people. Like, he has been an integral part of this thing in the way that they've been strategizing and game planning since he got on campus. So I'm going to take the over. I'm pretty confident in that. I don't know if he's going to start right out of the gate, but I would not put it past the realm of possibility that by the end of the year, he is starting some games.
Okay.
Because I think he's that talented. I think if they really want and are serious about getting their offense right, he's going to need to be a big part of that. And that's not because they don't have anybody else, but it's just because A, he's really talented. B, TCU is going to be in a similar situation to football where they're going to want to be developmental and they're going to want to keep guys out of high school. And that's why you saw this past year, just one kid out of high school. He was a top 60 kid in the country. He just happened to be in your own backyard, but you still paid him. You got him on campus, and now you're going to expect him to produce and develop and grow, right? And so I think they're going to give him the opportunity to do that soon rather than later, just because there is no later in college basketball anymore. He'll be gone. You know what I'm saying?
All right, let me give you another one because you talked about the shooting, and you know I've been my kingdom for a TCU team that can shoot the three-pointer consistently. So last year, and this number shocks me if I'm doing the math right, they averaged making 6 threes a game on 30% shooting, which I guess that's probably why it feels like a lot for that team, but they shot such a volume because they shot it so poorly.
Yeah.
I don't think 30% is fair. I think I got to raise it up. If I give you 33% as the line, I'll say 32 and a half. I'll give you a little bit of a wiggle room there. And 7 threes a game. Where are you going on that? Because I think they'll shoot them more in the flow of the offense. They won't just be chucking like they did a season ago, right?
So I think so. I think that's right. This team, even last year's team, right? Think about how abysmally bad last year's three-point shooting was. Mm-hmm. I think they shot 31 or 32%.
30. They shot 30%.
30? Exactly?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So, I think I'm taking the over on 33%. And again, I saw one scrimmage and I've been to a couple practices, but just the natural shooting ability of this team is significantly better than it was a year ago. I can't stress that enough. Significantly better. And the reason is because they went out into the portal and they went and got shooters, right? One of the assistant coaches told me after the scrimmage, we wanted shooters. We had to go get shooters. There were too many times last year where TCU was banging its head against the wall in desperate need of a basket, and they just didn't have anybody who could go get it, right? Noah Reynolds was great for a little while, then he got banged up. Vashon Alette was just wildly inefficient. You lost your point guard to an injury in non-conference. Melissa, listen, it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault, but I was involved in the play when it happened.
He stepped on you. Anyways, but no, they went and they wanted to go get shooters. And the logic is, yes, Jamie Dixon loves defense and rebounding. He has talked about it almost nonstop for a decade now at TCU. Defense and rebounding are his passions. Defense and rebounding are what he's very good at coaching. And I think they finally got to a point where they said, we can coach these kids to play defense and to rebound. Mm-hmm. We need guys who are natural born shooters and scorers. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did in the portal, right? With LT, with Toulson. That's what they did with Bug in the freshman class. That's what they did with Xavier Edmonds, the JUCO kid who's probably the most impressive player to me on the court. Just with his versatility and his ability on the offensive end. I'm sounding like a homer. They're going to struggle, I think, in conference still. I think that because of their size and their rebounding issues, I think they're still going to struggle to get stops consistently, to get rebounds consistently in Big 12 play. I don't think they're going to finish 13 or lower in the league like a lot of these projections I'm seeing. I could see them more somewhere around the 7 to 10 range. And if you're in the 7 to 10 range in the Big 12, then you're talking about tournament. Yeah. Right? So that's kind of where I think they are based on that. One of the other things that I was really impressed with, though, was Brock Harding's passing ability. He had 11 assists. It looked very natural to him. He was directing traffic throughout the night and was a large reason why several guys on his team had so many open looks. He's the reason why Jace Posey had a couple highlight reel dunks, like we've come to know Jace Posey is capable of doing. And he is, without a doubt, a piece that TCU was missing last year, even when Frankie Collins was healthy. He's a distributor first, and when I talked to him after the scrimmage, he said straight up, he's like, why wouldn't I have wanted to come here? Look at all the weapons I have to pass to. That was what he said. He wants to pass. He wants to pass. And that's why he was top 4 in the Big Ten in assists last year. And I think he's going to be such a huge asset for TCU offensively, just in keeping the ball from getting stuck, like we've seen so frequently. Now, defensively, he's a little bit undersized. So I don't know what the trade-off there is quite yet. But as far as a facilitator goes on offense, I don't think TCU's had a guy quite as capable as him in some time.
Is there a Power 4 university in the country that has a more fun combination of men's and women's point guards than TCU with Brock Harding and Olivia Miles? I mean, legitimately.
I haven't done enough research to really
I haven't
know,
either.
But I think it's certainly going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's certainly going to be entertaining. And
who's going to have more top 10 plays, Olivia or Brock, or be involved in more top 10 plays this year? Brock may get it because he may set Jace up for I think 3
lobs. Yeah, like the lobs and all that kind of stuff. I think I could see that.
But Liv's going to have at least 2.
But Olivia's going to be like a top 2, top 3 draft pick next year in the WNBA, right?
She's so fun. I'll get with Brady because I have a couple of days off for fall break, and so I'm going to get over to women's practice hopefully this week. But we haven't talked about him yet because I haven't gotten out there. But I'm telling you, this team has a chance to be so much fun. I think we're going to have
Yeah.
two very exciting offensive teams. I think the women will also be really competent on defense, and they have Jamie Dixon would kill for the height that Mark Campbell has on his roster.
Relatively, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
they've got 4 girls that are 6'7". And this is the biggest concern for me. Oh God, no! We almost made it through. But this is the biggest concern for me for men's hoops
Yeah.
is the rebounding. Now,
Yeah.
David Punch has put on some really good weight. He looks pretty strong. Malik Diallo has put on some good weight. He looks pretty strong as well. But he was pretty much a non-factor even in the scrimmage when it comes to rebounding. I think he had 1, right? And Vianney Salachum, the Florida international transfer, who is still kind of raw, but does some good things that they didn't really have last year as far as like shot blocking is concerned. He pulled down 4 or 5 rebounds. He looked pretty capable and aggressive. Like, I liked what I saw from him rebounding more than what I saw from Diallo, even though Salachum is a little bit smaller, like thinner. I don't know how he's going to be able to handle himself physically in the paint against some bigger front courts. And then Xavier Edmonds, another big body. He's like 6'8", 245. Like, he's legitimately beefy.
Can he play offensive line?
Oh, God, he might be able to, frankly. But he's only 245, right? So, like,
yeah. He can put on
tight
weight.
end.
Yeah, tight end.
You
There
talk
you
about
go.
the basketball, the tight end pipeline.
Tight end room.
Tight end might be the best
right
position
now.
group on TCU football's roster.
it might be.
But we're digressing. Let's see. What else did I want to mention? It was a very fun game. It was competitive. Purple squad ended up winning by 2, 68-66. And a reminder, 12-minute halves. This was a 24-minute basketball game, and the score was 68-66.
Yeah, that's great.
Feels pretty
That's
good,
fun.
right?
Yeah.
They were up by 8 with 30 seconds left. Bug Edwards hit a contested fadeaway 3 in the corner to make it 68-63. They fouled. This is the part that Frog fans are not going to like. They fouled, missed the front end of the 1-and-1, came down, Bug hit another 3, 68-66, fouled with 2.5 seconds left. Missed the front end of a 1-and-1.
Oh, Jamie, we didn't need to bring this up
rebound.
tonight.
Bug got the rebound. They called a timeout with 1.5 seconds left. And Mike Rice, Jamie McNeely drew up a really nice half-court set. Like a full court, like just a screen at the half court to get Bug open for a 3 that he damn near made from about half court. He damn near made it. And White would have won 69-68. But very fun basketball game. I'm very much looking forward to this team. Their first game is October 3rd against New Orleans at Schollmeyer Arena. November 3rd at Schollmeyer Arena against New Orleans. And then they've got
soon.
Yeah, it's less than a month. And I mean, then they've got Michigan, they've got Florida, they've got like some schedule. Notre Dame, some really fun non-conference opponents.
Better
several of
non-con
whom
than
are
the
coming
women have.
to. Yes. Yeah.
Nobody
That's
wants to play
conversation for
TCU.
another day.
Yeah,
everybody's scared.
TCU.
Everybody's running scared. They weren't, but now they are.
Yeah.
All right, baseball. What do you want to know? Ask me a question.
I want to know, number one, is Noah Franco going to be a significant contributor on the mound this year?
That's a good question. I saw him pitch on Friday. So he threw 1 inning. His fastball was sitting 95-97. His slider was 87-90. He had what appeared to be more command than he did a year ago. And it was 1 inning. He struck 2 guys out. He got a weak ground out to second base. Like, it was very efficient. He did a great job. I think the biggest question that TCU has to ask themselves from a coaching perspective with him is, if he's going to be a guy that you use out of the bullpen regularly, then you're okay with him using that DH spot. Mm-hmm. If he's not going to be a guy that you use regularly, you got to find a position for him in the field, because I think by the time Big 12 play rolls around, they're going to be searching for how they can fit some other bats into this lineup. Mm-hmm. And if he's capable of playing left field, great. Get him out there, put him in left field. You know who your center fielder is. You know who your right fielder is. Still some questions about left field. So if it's him, put him out there, open up that DH spot. If it's not, and you want him to pitch, okay. But otherwise, they might be finding themselves in a little bit of a tricky spot with Noah. I think personally, I know for a fact he wants to pitch. Now, he's got to do the work to be a capable pitcher for what TCU's goals are this year. Which let's national championship is the goal this year.
Yeah,
Right?
College World
College
Series or
World
bust.
Series, national championship is the goal this year. They have the roster to do it.
Yeah.
They're the team. They're the roster currently this year. In my opinion, that is the most capable of winning a national championship. And we just had beach volleyball win a national championship back in the spring, right?
Yeah.
So, like this is it. This is the heat is on in a way, and Noah Franco's a big piece of that. If he ends up being like a starter in the rotation, which I don't foresee, maybe the Tuesday guy, I don't know. Then you do the he pitches and hits thing on that day, and then maybe he gets a day off, and then he DHs the next day, right? So you got to find some more DH versatility. TCU's been handcuffed by the designated hitter spot for like 3 seasons
Yeah.
in a row. It's got to stop. It's killing
Yeah.
me. They got to figure out how to manage it, and it's tricky. But a two-way player like Noah makes it even trickier in a couple different senses.
Another pitching question. Tommy Lepore is the ace. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Louis Rodriguez is back. There have been putting him in the starting rotation has long been a gamut, right? But he is so important in his role out of the pen. Is this the year we see him be a weekend starter consistently?
Yeah, I have no idea. I've asked people who would know, and they're playing coy. I don't know if they know truly at this point what Louis' role will be, but they're very glad to have him back
Yeah.
because I mean, how can you not appreciate having a veteran president? He might have been their best pitcher last year,
I
like
mean,
top to
him and
bottom.
Tommy,
Yeah,
probably the two guys.
and
So,
so, oh, go ahead. All
no,
right.
no, finish your thought. Finish your thought, because I'm gonna lead into something else after
Okay,
that.
so I think you're not. First of all, you're not going to see a bunch of him or Tommy this fall. They've got the scrimmage coming up against A&M. They've got the next one against Texas State. They may both throw an inning. Tommy might not pitch at all, just because it's like the why bother,
Yeah.
right? Why risk it? We know what we've got there, and they've got to figure out other roles. So they're going to give those innings to other people and say, hey, you got to go earn this. Ethan Thomas from Hawaii, he's going to be one of those guys who's competing for a starting role. Is it Quinn Wyatt from Grand Canyon? Another reliever who's going to be in the mix for one of those starting roles. Plus, you've got Brassfield and you've got Baumler and you've got some of these other kids that were on the roster last year who are still vying for some spots. Nate Stern is another one. What do you do with him? He looked great at the end of the year last year. So Tommy and Louis are not going to get a lot of run this fall, which tells me that Louis is probably going to start in the bullpen when the season comes around in February, but I don't know if he ends up there.
Well, and with that being a big question, like you mentioned, some of these other young guys vying for roles. I think the biggest thing that handcuffed TCU a season ago was the inability to have three consistent weekend starters. It was a struggle. Do you don't have to tell me who right now because it's way too early for that. But do you think that they're by the time fall is over and we head into February and they're heading over to Globe Live to play that we will know, assuming everybody's healthy, the three guys that they expect to start Friday, Saturday, and Sunday 90% of the weekends?
Well, I mean, you can look at who the starting rotation has been the first 2 weekends of the season under Kirk and who the starting rotation has been the last two
Fair.
weekends of the season under Kirk and get the answer to that, I think, pretty quickly. I don't think that anything is going to be etched into stone just because they make a decision in February. They're gonna push these guys, and you're in an interesting situation now because you only have 34 on the roster. They're used to having 40, and guys are just gonna you got who you got, right? It's a personnel thing now. As New England almost fumbles it for like the billionth time in this football game, you've gotta if a guy isn't performing the way you need him to in the starting rotation, you have fewer options behind him now, right? I think there are only 17 pitchers on this roster this year. There were 22 last year. And so there might be one or two more guys that get an opportunity, but you're going to see some guys get longer leashes this year in their roles. That's for certain. But I don't think that means that a guy who's starting in February as the Saturday guy, if he doesn't give you what you need from your Saturday guy, that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, he might be your Saturday guy for a month and a half
Yeah.
versus the 3 weeks that it would have been in a couple of years past. But I don't think that'll necessarily mean he's your guy for the whole season. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, and I think that's fair. It's also it's pitchers. You can't the major leagues doesn't lock in on a starting rotation
No,
anymore.
no, it
So
doesn't.
it's a very different game than I think it used to be. I'm excited. I think it's completely fair to say that this team needs to get to Omaha and make a real run once there to be considered a successful season.
Yeah,
It's going to be interesting to see how they manage that smaller roster, and the talent is inevitable with this group. But this is where I think Kirk, being the type of manager that he is really going to pay dividends of keeping everybody locked in, keeping the culture good, and there could be a lot of egos. We did not see that last year. This was a
no,
team that really seemed to genuinely play for each other and play for TCU. And I think that with even more talent this season and older guys and more veteran leadership, they could do. They can get TCU back to Omaha, our rightful birthright place to be in June.
I think so. I really do. I mean, I'm very high on this team. They're gonna come out in preseason polls and be somewhere around like 8 to 10,
Yeah.
pretty much across the board. And I think they will live up to that billing. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be fun. College Station Friday, and then hosting Texas State, correct?
Yep.
The following Friday. So yeah, those are always open. I don't know what the deal down at Blue Bell Park is for fans that want to travel, but I'm sure we can get that information out. I'm sure TC Baseball will post it if they haven't already, if people want to be down there. But Texas State will be free and open to the public. I'd imagine they usually are.
They are. My camera is breaking
Yeah,
currently. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good, because I'm frozen in a very flattering facial pose.
That's a little RBF you got going there, Jamie.
It's true. Hey, we're back.
Hey, you're
Okay,
back.
good. I don't know what happened there. Interesting. Anyways, yes, the Bluebell scrimmage against Texas A&M, I believe, is open to the public. I know for a fact the Texas State one is. So show up. It's on a Friday evening. It's the day before the Baylor game here.
Yep.
Really fun weekend if you're an out-of-town Frogger to maybe come back to town and catch some baseball and then catch the Frogs beating up on the Bears on Saturday. So really looking forward to both of those. I'll be down in College Station, I think, on that Friday as well.
I think I'm going to pass on College Station because I'm driving to Manhattan at 5 a.m. Saturday
Well,
morning.
good luck. Best of luck
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, we'll see
Thoughts
how
and
that
prayers.
goes.
I will not be doing that this year. That's going to do it, though, for this episode of Frogs Insider. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or over on the YouTube channel. We will be back. I've got an indie drill this week. Melissa's got a great From the Other Sideline preview coming up for Kansas State this week. We've got a ton of content on the YouTube channel, including Sonny Dykes midweek press conference, which you will not want to miss on Tuesday morning. So keep it here at Frogs Insider for all your TCU athletics needs, and we'll talk to you next time. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.